Hi, I'm Bill Bishop, and I'm the CEO of the Big Idea Company. And today we're talking with Rick Scruggs, who's the CEO and founder of Financial Designs Business Advisors in Lynchburg, Virginia. And what we're going to talk about today are the 12 principles of abundance thinking. And so, Rick, give us an example of someone who really used abundance thinking to grow their business and be successful.
So, Bill, the name that comes to mind is a gentleman named Robert Roberts. He's now deceased. However, when Robert started his company, it was just himself and another key employee, Pam Coward, in a two-room office and a business incubator. And Robert just had this idea as an engineer, he could build something better, faster, less expensive, and more profitable. So he had an abundance mindset right from the get-go. And so after a few short years, they moved their facility into a manufacturing operation, hired people. We put in their benefits package, which were always 5-star, because he believed that he couldn't accomplish anything without his employees. And that was from everybody at the bottom all the way to the top. And Robert's abundance really kept just emerging over the years in our working relationship. Because one day I asked him, how did he see this business continue? He said, well, that's really a challenge. So I introduced an idea to him called employee stock ownership plans, where he could share the wealth with his employees. Again, everybody was included. And it worked. It just worked and worked. And when he finally transitioned into his retirement, he had built a company with good employees, good reputation. He was a go-giver to the community. And then when I said, Robert, how did it turn out? He said, pretty much the way I thought it would have. And I was just kind of taken aback. And I said, so what did it cost you? He said, Rick, it didn't cost me anything. And it was that whole abundance mindset that involved Robert taking massive action to impact the quality of life of not only his employees, but the community in which he lived.
So that's a really inspiring story for everybody. Now, he and you really helped him do this, applied these 12 principles for an abundant future, right? And so we're just going to go through those so people listening and watching this can benefit from this too, right? So we'll just go through these 12 principles. Ready to do that?
Very good.
Okay. All right. So I have the list here. So the first one that you've given us is, one, always take time to think. So what do you mean by that? Always take time to think.
Well, there's a lot of noise out there today, whether it's, your phone, email, voicemail, people coming to your office. And the one gift that we all have that's free is our ability to think. The challenge is, can we create both the space and time to think? So Robert was always willing to, as an example, to come to our office, and we would think about what mattered, what did he want to accomplish, who did he want to impact. And for all of us, it's having that private, sacred time where there's no interruptions, no phone calls, and people aren't giving you advice or feedback. It's really a free-flowing session where you can take time to think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that people, most of us, when we're thinking about stuff, we're thinking about something that's urgent but not important, right? To use the 7 habits of successful people. And I think what you're saying here is you need to take the time to think about things that are important, but perhaps not urgent in this exact moment, but are extremely important, right?
Absolutely, Bill.
That's what you were doing there. Okay, so that's great advice. It's right off the top, and that's why you have these time to think sessions with business owners. That's your number one thing you do.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the second one is always know your numbers. So tell us about why that's important.
Well, in a capitalist system, it's I's dotted, T's crossed. The system says, the IRS says you must pay your taxes. However, it allows you to do everything to minimize taxes. So avoidance is permitted. Evasion is 20 years behind bars. So you want to know your numbers, and you want to sit down with your advisors, both external and internal. So the CFO, other key employees, your CPA, bankers, because it's that collaboration that comes across when you know your numbers, because then you're not caught by surprise. The worst thing to happen is to find out you had a deficit or something that was coming up was not documented, and that can really, rock the boat.
Right, right. So really make sure that you know your numbers. Okay. So number 3 is always have a clear 10x vision for the future. So tell us about 10x vision for the future.
Well, there's a principle behind 10x. One is that thinking 10x is easier than just 2x. An organization that grows at 5%, that you have no option on that. You have to do that to survive against inflation and taxes and mistakes, et cetera. But it's having a written vision. You got to write it down. It's knowing your why. What's the purpose for why you're building this business or why you're serving the marketplace? And it also is something that you can use to lead your employees and also communicate with customers and suppliers and the other integral people that are necessary for business success.
So the 10x is really not necessarily quantifiable, but it's just the idea of abundance, right? So you're having
Correct.
this idea of something really abundant that you're going for. So I think that's great. So principle number 4 is always build your vision with an abundance mentality.
Well, I think that ties back to earlier, which is scarcity is always knocking on your door. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing. And so when you let that get ahead of abundance thinking, you're really going to get in trouble. Abundance is really just a thought away, and it's something to keep in the forefront of what you're doing.
So you're really talking about training your mind to notice when you have scarcity thinking and say, don't go there, just shift it over to abundance thinking, because it's just as easy to do, right? Actually, it's just a choice.
That is correct.
Right. That's great. Okay. Number 5, always finish with success.
Well, you can do all the right things, Bill, but that's not a guarantee that you're going to have a successful outcome. But if your habits are not in alignment with your goals and your objectives, then you're really not going to be successful. So it's just this idea of aligning your thinking, your habits, and your goals to have the biggest impact and the biggest success.
And this idea of finish with success, I know certainly in my entrepreneurial career that there's moments there where you're not feeling that you're having success, but the idea is to keep going until you get to that point, whether it's during the day or the week or the year, that you feel like we're ending on a successful note, right? Is that
right?
What we're talking?
Well, yeah, I share with people, everybody knows a marathon is a long race. And they've heard it's 26 miles, but it's not. It's 26 miles and a couple hundred yards. So you got to go the full distance if you want to win.
Right, for sure. Excellent. Okay, number 6, halfway there now. Always connect your goals with habits.
Well, as I just said a minute ago, there are a lot of people who have goals. Many times they're not written down. So a goal that's not written down is really not a goal. But then the question is, what are the necessary habits that I have to have in alignment with my goals so I can execute them, communicate to them? So one habit is energy. I've got to have good energy if I'm going to carry out my goals, which are usually something that can't be done in 24 hours. Goals, you can have short-term goals, midterm, long-term, or long-term goals, but that linkage between habits and goals, that's a formula for success.
Yeah, very, very good. Now, number 7 is always seek collaboration. Tell us about that.
Well, we've all been on a farm where we've seen silos. And if you notice anything about a silo, it doesn't have any windows. So what's happened too often to business owners is their advisors, who are bright, licensed, competent, helpful people, are delivering their information to the owner or owners in isolation. So our goal is to help build a more collaborative system, install windows if necessary in those silos so that the communication channels are clear and that the message sent is the message heard.
Mm, that's very good. Yeah, and I would think it as the business owner's situation becomes more, as their business gets bigger, it becomes more complex and there's even more silos. Therefore, collaboration is even more necessary at that point.
Right.
Yeah, because no owner wants more complexity.
Mm-hmm.
However, complexity, the ceiling of complexity occurs based on both time and volume. You don't have a complexity day one, and maybe you don't need to have collaboration day one. Our belief, though, is if you start with collaboration, continue with collaboration, and end with collaboration, you'll have a successful business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent advice. Okay, number 8, always demonstrate courage.
So it's been said that, when we face difficulties, we can become, afraid, or we can think that we don't have what it takes to get it done. But demonstrating courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It just says you're going to take that necessary step anyway. It can mean that you're going to ask for help. Being courageous all by yourself sometimes is of little merit. So the idea is demonstrate courage. It improves your own confidence, but it also communicates to those surrounding that in spite of the odds, you were still willing to take that first step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think the concept of courage is spoken enough about in business. That
Not at all.
Really, so important, isn't it? Okay, number 9 is always be present.
So we've heard the term multitasking, and many times I've been guilty. You go into a meeting, you've got your phone sitting there, or you're
distracted by something you were still working on previously. So the idea is to get your mental frame so that you get rid of all that excess noise, all that garbage, so that when you're with somebody, you can be present to hear the message. And it's so crucial because so many times people said, oh yeah, we had a great meeting. And you ask somebody afterwards, well, what did you talk about? Well, and they tell you, and it was nothing that was said. So being present in the moment is crucial.
Very, very good. Okay, number 10, always use your dissatisfaction for a 10x change.
So this is a really interesting idea. There's nothing wrong with being satisfied where you are. I mean, you have to enjoy your progress. It's progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
However, the dissatisfaction piece is more about if something didn't go right, how can you look at that and seize that opportunity to either recreate it, rebuild it, re-energize it, and take it forward on your goal and mission.
Mm-hmm. So it's actually being present and then feeling the dissatisfaction and realizing, okay, that's actually an opportunity to take action.
Right? But yes, it is. And I still feel too many times
people are never satisfied. And I think you miss out on life when you are always dissatisfied.
Right. So you sort of have to play it both. Like you have to be appreciative of what's good, but also realize what's not working and fix it. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. But not just be sitting around grumbling about it.
Correct.
That would be scarcity mentality.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. Number 11 is always lean into the future.
So the wind is always not behind you.
It's always not at your back. So there's a little visual or mental exercise where you just lean in, be going forward. Let yourself and others see that you're going in the right direction so that they'll want to come behind you and become part of a team. They say you can go fast, but you can't go as far as you can go as a team. And that's the whole idea. Lean in and bring people with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And then number 12 is always take massive action.
I love massive action, whether it's at the back of a principle or it's at the forefront, because nobody just wants to accomplish little things. We're all here for a very short visit on the blue planet. So the idea is identify that one crucial thing that you think would make the most impact, and then rally your resources, both human capital, financial capital, collaborate, and then set the vision and then take that massive action. You'll never be disappointed.
Yeah, that's great. So all of these principles, if we start to apply them in our life, is going to help us develop our abundance mentality and achieve an abundant future, right?
That is correct, Bill.
That's the overall principle of it. Okay, so
Yes.
just tell us a little bit about your abundance business coaching program and how people can get started with that.
So the idea behind our coaching program is that we know all athletes, all sports teams, they have coaches. And if you look at private and family businesses, those that seem to really excel and grow have boards of advisors or boards of directors. Well, those are really just coaches and mentors who have an irrational interest in seeing somebody succeed in life. So this whole idea about abundance is finding a coach, finding a system and a process that you'll follow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really good. So the very first step, if someone wants to start to work on these, is to have a time to think session. Just tell us about that.
So time to think was something that was authored by Nancy Klein many years ago. And her thought process was that there's always two experts in the room, the thinker and the listener. And the idea is to set the stage, set the space, set the environment where somebody could let a free flow of ideas, thoughts, feelings come out without any feedback or somebody giving, hey, you ought to do this or you ought to do that. So that's why we start every engagement with a 70-minute, no obligation time to think, to see if there's good chemistry.
That's great. And then you can start helping them apply these principles in their life and their business and everything else.
If that's the path and plan they want to go on.
Yeah. And it just to finish off, you just wrote a book. Just tell us a
Yes.
little bit about the book that you just.
So it's called What's Wrong with My Thinking?
Uh-huh.
And it talks about how abundance thinking can create more cash flow and then have the time to enjoy it. There's no point in stacking up encyclopedias of wealth if you don't have your health, don't have friends and family, and you don't have time to enjoy it. Because I think that's the best way to play it forward, is to have time to enjoy that which you've created.
Well, that's really great, Rick, and I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom of so many years with us in these 12 principles, and look forward to, I'm sure you're going to have lots of great conversations with lots of business owners around these principles going forward.
It's been a pleasure, Bill. Thank you very much.